Are you on track for retirement? According to Vanguard's How America Saves 2024 report, average 401k balances are shockingly low. And if $1.8 million is the ideal dollar amount needed to begin thinking about retirement in this day and age, then according to these figures right here, more contributors to their 401ks under the age of 25 has less than $7,000. Then we have the 65 and up generation with only $272,000 on average, which makes it virtually impossible to really begin thinking about retirement. Let's talk about this. All right, so I want to take a quick minute and share with you some thoughts that I have about the rethinking whole retirement concept, on how the recommendations by these advisory firms in this current day and age is clearly disconnected from reality based upon the economic financial conditions that everyone's experiencing. So I want to share with you 3 concerns that I have based upon a recent report from Vanguard, which is one of the 3 largest investment firms in our country, based upon metrics from 2023. When I went through the report, there were a couple major things that I consider to be red flags or major concerns that people should really consider, because this current level of inflation that we're experiencing, my opinion, is mild compared to where it's going to end up in the future. And if that plays out the way that I believe it will, then the recommendations in these retirement models will be impacted severely. So this video here is more like a follow-up to the previous video I did last week, where I talked about 3 problems that a lot of people aren't considering around the concept of not only retiring, but what they use to retire in the form of our currency and the issues we're going to face with that. And that was called retirement woes, the hidden retirement pitfall everyone overlooks. And as you can see, that was a 19-minute deep dive with a lot of stats, facts, and charts. Highlight my point. The video was all sparked by this particular video here, where a certified financial planner was giving recommendations to some of her clients at the age of 58 as to whether or not 1.8 million was enough to retire. And at the end of all that, basically advised that they didn't retire at this current moment. And during my video, I went through some of the reasons why and how people can use that way of reassessing this whole retirement concept that we've been sold. But based upon the report that came out from Vanguard, I think it's very wise to read between the lines of what they're trying to report to the American public. Vested interest to make sure that the information they share is something positive and optimistic, so that people will continue to invest with their firm, because a lot of that has to do with the fact that as an entity, they make money off charging fees, helping people plan for their retirement. So Vanguard has approximately 8.6 trillion in assets under management as of this March in 2024. And as you can see here, from their inception in 1975, when they held a measly $1.7 billion, all the way to today where they hold $8.6 trillion. Their business model has been quite successful. And again, the customers they represent hasn't necessarily benefited the most. And a lot of that has to do with the current economic conditions we're in and the boom and bust cycles that we've experienced, and how over the last 14 to 15 years since the great financial crisis, they've benefited tremendously off of the quantitative easing process of excess currency being brought into existence, regardless of whether or not their clients' 401ks have actually held value benefit them at all. But at the end of the day, that's neither here or there. But what's most important for the sake of this video here is this report that I'm referring to here, and it's called How America Saves 2024, the current state of defined contribution plans in America. And within this 114-page report here, give a lot of detailed information on a variety of subject matter, with a lot of stats and graphs. But when you zoom out and look at it, a pinch of skepticism, there are 3 concerning areas that can't be ignored. And one of those concerns is the fact that there's a high percentage of low balances that they're using, which skews the overall averages for their client base. And the result of that is that, in my opinion, gives a very deceptive outlook on the health of their client base altogether. What do I mean? If I scroll down in this report here, it gives a very interesting perspective on the overall account balances of their clients. As I get to page 49, this page here talks about the distribution of aggregate contribution rates as well as account balances. One of the things that stands out is that nearly 3 in 10 participants had an account balance of less than $10,000, and 15% of participants had a balance of $250,000 or more. And so if 30% of their entire client base have less than $10,000 on one side, and then for their high net worth income owners, which makes up about 15%, that makes over $250,000. That small percentage of their client base is what gives a median dollar amount, which makes their metrics aggregating their data seem very favorable, because the majority of their client base in the middle varies between that $10,000 to $15,000 all the way up to the low 6-figure range. For the thousands of clients that they have, the majority of them have under 6 figures on average saved up for retirement. This current environment we're living in now, that should concern a lot of people as to whether or not they'll be able to actually continue on putting aside funds at the current rate that they're doing it now, in hopes of it going to work for them and compounding over time to allow them to reach somewhere even near higher 6 figures, pipe dream for the majority of 7 figures or more. Highlight what I'm talking about here. Here's the actual age range and average balance of account that I'm referring to here. And as you can see at the very top, those under 25,000 have about $7,300 saved up in their 401ks. All the 25-year-old to 44-year-old on average have under 6 figures. And those age 45 to 65, that 20-year time frame, they're the ones that might be considered higher income earners. Yet on average, as you can see here, those who are 65 and older on average only have $250,000. Now, all this data here is based upon the figures collected from last year. So as you can see, these figures provided by Vanguard to me is a signal that people's ability to save in this current environment well before the next official recession hits is already sketchy at this current moment. So what will happen after there's a correction or cooling off of this extremely hot economy and the markets respond unfavorably, everybody's account experiences some type of correction, it will only kick the can down the road even further for those who have dreams of being able to retire. But then again, that's not it. Another issue that makes this a major subject matter of concern is the actual deferral rate, because the participants' deferral rate is designed to encourage workers to save as much as they can of their current income in the vehicles provided by Vanguard at a certain percentage that's recommended in hopes of getting their employers matched to that contribution. But on page 37, it's a very concerning outlook as to what is recommended based upon what people are actually doing. On this page here, it talks about employee deferrals, the distribution of deferral rates, and the changes to deferral rates over the last couple of years. And one of the things that stands out in this graph here is while the recommended percentage of income saved on 15% industry-wide, Vanguard's client base was nowhere near that. Because according to their data here, Vanguard's participants saved an average of 7.4% of their income their employers plan in 2023, with a median participant deferral rate of 6.2% and only 24% of participant deferral rate of 10% or higher. So basically what that means is that these low deferral rates suggest that many participants are not saving enough of their income to be able to reach significant retirement savings at all, which automatically puts them at risk of having underfunded 401ks. The goal ultimately is 7 figures down the line. And all of this is barring any unforeseen events or blows to the economy. So not only are the balances low and the amount that workers are actually saving nowhere near enough, majority of Vanguard's, which makes up a good chunk of the average working class, with an average to median savings of around low 6 figures or 5 figures, are not on pace to meet their overall goals of being able to have a large enough nest egg to be able to withdraw from in the future when they look to retire. So at the end of the day, if the estimates are that U.S. workers will need to have 1.8 million to retire, and the bulk of Vanguard's clientele has nowhere near that based upon their own averages, then that should leave everybody to rethink how they save in 2024 and beyond. Because based upon the math, it's not adding up. So moving forward, people will definitely need to rethink the retirement model altogether. Because from the way it looks, no matter how much you try to put aside, based upon average person's income or their combined household income, even if they put aside their recommended 15% of their income, that in and of itself is a limit. Because that only equates to around 20,000 or so per year as a single contributor. But yet with all the volatility in the markets, especially everything hedging upon what the next Federal Reserve meeting may say, based upon the fact that they may cut or may not cut, if people's financial future is built upon data that the Fed used either excite or to spook the markets, solely going upon the previous performance of the stock markets and the bond market, would be very concerning for a lot of people. So once again, I'll put these videos together just to share my opinion and my thoughts on how it's imperative for people to think beyond what they're told and what they've been sold, because the environment we're entering in now, especially between now and 2030, is going to be potentially some very rocky times. And if that is the case, then you might want to make sure that you have more irons in the fire, not solely dependent upon the conventional methods that have been provided through sheer tradition based upon previous performance, as we're witnessing information provided by companies such as Vanguard and the like. And so even though I can't give advice, I can share my opinion. And that's why on my end, as a part of my Rethinking the Dollar journey, I realized that it's not about how much you save, but it's what you save in. For our currency is the weapon of choice used by the United States government to fund their operations through borrowing and running deficits, and then monetized by the Federal Reserve in the form of digits and paper. Then it doesn't matter who wins the presidential race, because as you can see here, it's the creation of the Federal Reserve, all the way from Woodrow Wilson until the current administration today with Joe Biden. The purchasing power of the consumer dollar has been eroded to the point where it's only worth mere cents. As I mentioned before in previous videos, it's my opinion that it's already sub-zero, meaning that a single dollar won't buy you much of substance because you have to put tax on top of it or additional dollars, which basically means everyone watching this video is living on borrowed time. Literally. So you might be wondering, what's the solution? Well, there is no clear-cut answer to this question. One thing I always recommend and continue to preach from the hills is the equivalent of shining light into the darkness that exposes some things, which hopefully gets you questioning the mainstream narrative. And then two, usually when you know better, you tend to do better. And doing better is simply not following the herd, doing what everyone expects you to do, figuring out some strategies that work for you, that helps protect and preserve everything you work for. And then three, if you're rethinking the retirement concept, you got to realize that man wasn't meant to sit around and do nothing. There's always something to do. It's a matter of what you do and how you do it that determines your contribution to humanity. And for me personally, because I enjoy serving and giving and creating, I'm always going to have something to do. So I never really look forward to stop doing anything, because if I enjoy what I do so much, why would I want to stop? Then again, that's a whole other discussion there. But at the end of the day, having as many irons in the fire working on your behalf will help you not be dependent upon activity of the markets directly. But on the other side of that is also protecting and preserving your purchasing power in something outside of the very same instrument that is the problem in and of itself, which I just showed is the currency, aka the dollar. So that's why gold and silver, other assets in the real world will play a major role in helping protect. You can't stop, but you can only slow down and minimize the risk that will come in the future from all this activity we're talking about now. So this is just me trying to put together my thoughts and analysis and present a counter argument to all the mainstream narratives that we're being given on how hunky-dory things really are when we can they're not. So if you guys enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you follow, subscribe, share this so more people can think outside the box and hopefully take action to diversify their strategies on how they're going to protect themselves today, tomorrow, and their latter years in a way that actually makes sense, because the math hopefully will add up. And of course, my whole motto, Rethinking a Dollar, is that once you understand the difference between sound money and fiat currency, it's only natural to go backwards, to reverse engineer the process that the banking cartel has set up against us, which is to give us debt in exchange for real items assets. That means to get physical possession of whatever you think is yours. So along with that comes opportunities. And this is the part where I want to remind you and encourage you, if you have not, consider the RTD Silver Team, where the goal is to help people automate their silver accumulation, helping create their own personal silver standard, where you're actually able to save in the people's money in your possession, not dependent upon a system, taking advantage of the manipulation of the spot price of silver right now. And then by educating and helping others, you can also earn income according to the value you bring to the system, which ultimately goes back to helping people. So that is a way of passively earning income while protecting yourself as far as your purchasing power, then adding value to other people, a business model that allows you to earn off your productivity. And so once again, just put an idea out there for those who want to diversify and have as many irons in the fire, especially in this current environment when employment is being brought into question. Then again, if you're interested, click the link in the description, find out more for yourself and see if it's for you or not. But if not, goal is to continue to bring education to you, give you something to think about, and hopefully provide some solutions or some options to consider. Other than that, enjoy your day.